Number 1, let's see. Average yield of a certain crop, 10.1 bushels per plant. That is the parameter, which is what we make our null and alternative hypotheses from. Which means that we can cross out letter A and letter B because they're using the wrong number. Now it says that the new fertilizer is going to result in greater yields. So that's going to be letter C, which indicates the alternative hypothesis is going to be bigger. The yield is going to be bigger than no change. Letter C is the answer. Now this one is for proportions, number 2. Let's see, 60%, so 60% is our parameter of interest, which means, so this girl who had this book before probably crossed out letter E first because the 75 is wrong. And notice that our parameter, it's the same number, right? So that means that letter D is out. And we're also interested at this time, let's see, if it's proportion greater than 60, right? So that's going to be letter A. So we got letter C and letter A. Number 3, significance test, p-value is less than 0.5. So we're going to reject the null hypothesis at a 5% alpha level. Which one looks like that? Letter D, reject the hoe at alpha level 0.05. Letter D. So that is that one. Number 4. What does that say? So type 2 error is when you fail to reject the null hypothesis even though the null hypothesis is false. Which one says that? Ooh, if you look closely, it looks like she crossed out most of them. And we're going to end up with B. Whoops, B. Fail to reject when the null hypothesis is false, just like I said. Okay, next one. So this should be in your notes. Number 5, what is the probability of a type 2 error? That's what we're after. Type 2 error. And if you remember, it's the power minus 1 is the probability of a type 2 error. I think she actually just writes that down, doesn't she? Yeah, so it's, let's see. It looks like she's getting there, 0.15 right there. So that's letter B is the answer. Just one more time, just remember the probability of a type 2 error is 1 minus the power. And what about a type 1 error? Type 1 error is actually the same as the significance level. So let's see. What do they say? Oh, they don't give the significance level, but it's the same as the alpha level right there. Letter D. Okay, here's number 7. Let's see, we are testing this 20% assumption against the psychic who got 50 out of the 200 cards correct. So that would be p hat, which is 0.25. So I'm going to use the calculator. I'm going to go to stat, over to tests, and that's number, 5 is a 1 proportion z test. And I'm going to put all this stuff in. So our parameter is 0.2. And the number this guy got right is 50, and out of 200. And we want to see what's the probability that it's larger. So that's the third one over. I'm going to calculate. And I get a p-value of 0.038. which looks like it's letter B. 0.038 is right between 0.05 and 0.25. Number 8. The most important one is the data come from a random sample or a randomized experiment, because if you don't do that, your data could be completely off. These other ones aren't super important. Normally we don't know what the standard deviation is. Let's see, at least 30 people. Well, not really, because we could have less and still have a fairly normal distribution. And then let's see, no, it doesn't have to be exactly normal, especially if we have 30 people. And then letter E doesn't really make sense either. So it's going to be C is the answer. Let's go with number 9. Number 9 talks about the weights of 35 athletes, and our p-value is 0.072, which means we would fail to reject the null hypothesis at a 5% significance level. Let's see which choice says that. So the closest one we got to what we usually write down is letter B, not enough evidence to reject the null hypothesis. Okay, let's look at number 10. Number 10 is talking about the average weight loss, so we could really rule out anything that says z-test, z-interval, 1 proportion, whatever. That's all for proportions. The only one that talks about an average is, remember, t-test is used for a mean. So that's going to be letter D, is